One of the most requested, or maybe even most asked about questions is: should I be selling on Amazon Saudi Arabia? And what are basically the opportunities of selling on Amazon in Saudi Arabia, whether you are a seller based in the UAE or anywhere else? Now, obviously, if you are already selling on Amazon in the UAE, entering into Saudi Arabia would be a natural next step. But even if you're not, let's talk about the opportunities of selling on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. Welcome back to the channel. This is our live chat today, or live stream today, all about selling on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. If you're joining us live, make sure that you leave your comments and your questions in the comments section, and I'll be very excited to answer them straight away live. Let's get started with the details and the opportunities about selling on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. So, we're going to be talking about the current market size of Saudi Arabia, Amazon.sa's traction, a little bit more about compliance, specifically when we're talking about FMCG products. And we're also going to be talking about the UAE to KSA remote fulfillment program that launched last year, and how maybe it could be the next step for you if you don't intend to fully launch into Saudi Arabia. Three very important numbers to look at before we get started. Saudi Arabia has almost 100% internet usage, which is absolutely fantastic. If you are an e-commerce seller, you want to sell in a market where people actually tend to use the internet. E-commerce sales in Q1 of 2025 reached almost 60 or almost 70 billion Saudi riyals. We'll look at the numbers now. And Amazon in Saudi Arabia is currently the number one ranked marketplace. Now, it's important to understand that Saudi is, if you are living in the region, you already know Saudi is a very strong market. There is a lot of demand, but the demand is accelerating incredibly fast. So, as you can see, what is estimated from, you can see clearly in front of you the estimations between 2026 and what we estimate to happen in 2031. So 33.9 million internet users, and a lot of these users are actually on social media, 34.1. This is important if you are an e-commerce brand, as social media can help you get more visibility for your brand. It's also important that 85% of people that live in Saudi Arabia do live in an urban population, which is as well very important for e-com sellers, as those would be the types of customers that tend to buy things online due to lack of time, due to traffic, and due to the fact that it's very easy for you to receive goods if you live in an urban city. Internet is also very fast. One thing to say is that Saudi right now is not a future market. It is growing very quickly, but even as of now, the addressable market is already very big, with around 28 to 31 billion US dollars spent in online and e-commerce products, and basically online. So online is jumping and not inching up. Like I said, we saw a very big spike between Q1 of 2024 and Q1 of 2025, a 56% increase, which is absolutely astronomical. It's insane, with 24, 20, almost 25 billion Saudi riyals spent online, additional of what it was spent in 2024. So we all know, and it's very clear, the market has very strong momentum right now. But let's talk about Amazon, since this is the primary platform that we would recommend as Amazon Sellers Society for you to enter into the market. Now, Amazon in Saudi Arabia behaves like a major marketplace already, very much similar to how it behaves in other places. Now, just as a snapshot, why is this important? Because you obviously, when you want to sell online, You obviously want to ensure that you are selling somewhere where there is enough demand. You want to put your products where customers are really purchasing. So, like you can see on screen, Amazon is currently ranked the number one marketplace in Saudi Arabia. Um, and a very important number to look at is the amount of direct traffic that Amazon gets. Around 44% of direct traffic comes into Amazon.sa. Why is this important? Because this highlights the fact that customers have big they use Amazon without even Amazon trying. And Amazon is a recognized brand, which makes it easy for you as a seller to put your products on the platform and ensure that there's going to be enough traffic. The mix between male and female is about 67% male and 33% female. This is kind of important, but do remember, sometimes if the purchaser is a male, it doesn't mean that they're not, for example, purchasing a product for their spouse, their partner, or something like that, or their family. So we get these numbers based on the owner of the account, but obviously if you have a family, sometimes somebody might be using your account and the account is dubbed as female or male. But it's important that the largest age group in Saudi Arabia is between the ages of 25 and 34. And obviously, this is the perfect age group because these are normally the consumers that have the funds in order to buy products online. Two, they are used to purchasing products online. So it's very, very important to highlight that. Now, let's look. It's important specifically if you are not local to Saudi. I guess if you're watching this, you're probably not. What is the ecosystem like? Because, of course, you're entering into a market that has existing sellers. How difficult or tough is the competition? It's not all roses. In 2024, at the end of 2024, the Ministry of Commerce saw an increase in commercial registrations, which is, in other words, a business license. That's what it's called in Saudi Arabia. As you can see, almost 41,000 people, 31,000 e-commerce commercial registrations, which is quite high. Those would be locally owned companies that are registering. 34.5 million expected e-commerce platform users by 2025. That's absolutely fantastic. And it's also important to note that the government is also providing a lot of support for e-commerce projects. Back in 2023, the funding reached about 1.6 billion, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. Now, what does this all mean? It basically means that the market is not only attracting buyers like you, it's also or buyers, like us. All of us are buyers on Amazon, but it's also attracting businesses as well as capital. So it's important to highlight that the competition isn't insane, but it's there and it's ramping up. So this is just so that you understand you don't have a lot of time if you want to enter into Saudi. The time is probably now this year in order to avoid the spike that's going to happen, the additional spike that's going to happen at the end of 2026 and beginning of 2027. So the market is very attractive for businesses and a lot of foreign businesses, not necessarily just local businesses. Um, Discipline of launching is very important. Saudi is not known to be a very easy business setup market, but let's look at three things. First of all, we need to figure out what would Amazon need and what do you need as a seller that is importing products into Saudi. At the end of the day, we need to think about the laws of Saudi Arabia and the regulations of Amazon as well. As you probably already know, if you are an Amazon seller, you cannot sell on Amazon, either UAE or Saudi Arabia, without having a business license. Now, you have the option of registering a CR, in other words, a commercial registration in Saudi Arabia. It might not be very convenient for you if you are not a GCC national or a Saudi national, but you can also utilize your UAE business license in order to sell on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. So that gives you a little bit of flexibility. More on that in a little bit. Now, there's also a lot of consumer laws in Saudi. Fantastic, because they really want to focus on accurate product information, pricing transparency, clear returns and refunds. And all of this is fantastic, specifically if you sell on Amazon, as Amazon also has compliance with all of these things. So there's no really need to worry. But you need to figure some things out, specifically if you sell FMCG products. More on this in a second. And finally, the most important thing is, okay, we're going to be importing these products into Saudi, and we're going to be selling on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. So the main thing is you need to really register for VAT under Zatka. Even if you are operating as a UAE-based company, the next thing would be, well, you need to be VAT compliant. Whether you are operating as a local Saudi company, it goes without saying, but also even as an international company, you would need to figure out the regulations of Zatka when it comes to VAT, and Amazon really focuses on VAT registration in Saudi Arabia. Importing products into Saudi Arabia is a whole different ballgame. Of course, it depends on the types of products that you intend to sell, because Saudi Arabia is quite strict in terms of the FMCG products, all consumable products. You need to be very careful if you're selling food items. I'm going to show you in the next slide what I mean. But if you're, no matter what you are doing, importing, you need to be working with the right companies that can help make sure that you're importing legally and not doing any back channeling. And the issue is, if you have certain types of products that fall under the FMCG, then you would also need to have a local CR company, as these products also need to be registered with the SFDA. FMCG products such as food items, grocery items, food supplements, cosmetics and personal care, health items, all of those are heavily regulated. Most of these products do require to be registered with SASO or the SFDA, which means you would need to have a full Saudi setup. So you're not able to do all of this, and you're not able to import your products and legally get them sold on Amazon, because Amazon also requires these documentation and these regulations with a non-local Saudi company. So if you are a UAE company, you cannot register your products under SFDA with a UAE company. Now you would need to have a local entity. But the opportunity would be, if you don't want to get your own local entity, you can look into finding a distributor that can help facilitate all of this, meaning they would be selling under their own license, and that would facilitate for you the ability to get your products regulated in Saudi Arabia in order to sell, if that is the first step that you want to do. There are other opportunities, of course, but that would be, another opportunity for you to do. So if you're selling standard products that do not require any sort of regulation, it's quite easy for you to do it. But if you are doing food items, any consumable item, cosmetics, personal care, if you're already selling these products in any country, you had to do lots of regulations in order to sell these products, in order to import these products, and also to legally sell them in the country. Saudi Arabia is no different. I would say it's a little bit more, it requires even more compliance, as it really takes consumer laws into, it takes it very seriously. Now, another opportunity, which, we spoke about last year whenever Amazon launched, but I find that not a lot of sellers are actually using it currently in the UAE. And it could be the first way to test demand on Saudi, but you need to do it correctly. So Amazon has the remote fulfillment option. Now, just to preface this is also only available for standard products that do not require regulations in Saudi Arabia, unfortunately. So still, if you are from the people that have FMCG products, you still are going to fall into the problem again, as Amazon will not allow you to sell these products unless you have the proper documentation. You can't get the proper documentation unless you have a local Saudi company. So it will remain the same. But The remote fulfillment option is for small to medium sized sellers that want to test out the market. It's not a perfect opportunity, but it is still an opportunity if done correctly. So, what does the remote fulfillment option basically mean? Your products are sitting in the Amazon UAE warehouse, the Amazon FBA UAE fulfillment center, and then they will appear to customers in Saudi Arabia. The customers in Saudi Arabia will order the product, and Amazon will ship it from UAE cross border over to the consumer in Saudi Arabia within 1 to 2 days. So, still following Amazon's fast prime delivery. You would not need to have a local setup in Saudi. You also do not have to have a VAT number in Saudi, as you're sending just single units over to consumers in Saudi. It's not a perfect system, as the consumer in Saudi Arabia needs to pay a little bit of an import fee, which is definitely not ideal. But still, it's a first step for you to test out the demand for your products in Saudi Arabia without, going full in. So you can test Saudi demand before a full local setup, or at least a setup on Amazon Saudi Arabia. You can use your UAE inventory as well, and you can just basically using the build international listing, your same listing in UAE that you have worked hard on and you've gotten some reviews on, you can just duplicate it and it just show up on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. So there's no need to launch from zero, which is great. Now, what you need is to have a professional seller account. Every single seller in the UAE has a professional seller account, as there is no other option. And your products need to be in the Amazon FBA warehouses, and they need to be export ready, meaning they have to be eligible ASINs only, like we said. And the remote fulfillment fees are a little bit higher than the standard, logically, because Amazon is shipping now internationally and not to another country, and not shipping locally in the UAE. So it's very important to just make sure that you know what the FBA remote fulfillment fees are, so that you can make sure you're selling the product at the right price. And like I said, compliance still matters for regulated products. So unfortunately, as of today, if you're selling things like food, if you're selling cosmetics, if you're selling personal care items, food supplements, anything that requires regulations, you will not be able to use the remote fulfillment option. You will need to have a full setup ready on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. So, in closing, here is the recommended playbook for all of the sellers. Number one, you need to pick the right category when you want to sell on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. Definitely prioritize products with demands in Saudi Arabia. It makes a lot of sense, no matter which market you intend to sell in. Make sure that the products have good margins and you manage compliance properly. Definitely, number two, you can use UAE FBA first if you are already a seller on Amazon UAE. Why not just test it out? Of course, just to explain something, by simply the products showing up on Amazon Saudi Arabia, of course, they're not going to sell by themselves. Very much like what you need to do in UAE, you need to advertise, you need to promote, you need to do deals, you need to be actively trying to persuade customers to purchase your products and to improve both your CTR and your CVR. You need to do the same thing in Saudi Arabia. So if you want to really do a test and take it seriously, don't just have the products show up in Saudi Arabia and wait until somebody decides to purchase them. No, you need to be active on ads. So you need to advertise your products so that you can get visibility, because whatever visibility you have in the UAE will not translate to that visibility in Saudi Arabia. This is a completely different marketplace. So you need to do that. And you also need to, work out pricing and be a little bit more attractive to see. Maybe you're not going to make the margins that you want using the remote fulfillment, but remember, the purpose of why we're using the remote fulfillment is to test out the market and try to figure out, does it make sense for you to launch completely in Saudi Arabia? So think about it that way. Now, once you have used the remote fulfillment option, if that's an option for you, narrow down the ASINs for the best ASINs that you think will work well, and then then localize them and launch them directly. Now, unfortunately, if you cannot sell using the remote fulfillment, then you would go from 1 to 3 to 4 and jump over number 2. And that's basically it. Yes, for those of you that are asking, yes, Amazon Saudi Arabia is an incredible opportunity, not in the future, but actually right now. So if you are thinking of starting to sell on Amazon in Saudi Arabia, the right time is now. Hamdi is asking a question. Is Saudi Arabia good for new sellers? I think, based, Hamdi, on all of the things that we have discussed in today's live stream, I think you can agree that yes, it is a good market for new sellers, as right now it has a lot of demand, but competition is still manageable. But it's important to make sure that you focus on the things that we talked about now in order to ensure that your products will succeed on Amazon in Saudi Arabia. And as always, if you need help and support with launching on Amazon, either in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia, remember the Amazon Sellers Society is the team to help you out. You can reach out on our website. You'll find the link in the description box under this video. And you can reach out to us. You can opt to book a call with our team or just send us an email through the website, and then we'll figure out what you need and how we can help you out. Remember, if you're not watching this live, make sure that you leave all of your comments in the chat so that I can get to them later on and hopefully do a second live stream to help and support you and to answer all of your questions. Thank you so much if you joined us live. And for those of you that are rewatching this, let me know, would you think about launching on Amazon in Saudi Arabia in 2026? Thank you very much.